We'll just wait for 1 or 2 minutes. Then
Yes.
Good evening, one and all. Welcome to the session 2 of one-day National Web Seminar on Biodiversity, Connecting to the Nature. In the session 2, we'll be starting shortly. We welcome Dr. Sharad Kambale on the behalf of Department of Life Sciences. Just information, morning session, we have given already the passcode. By the end of today's talk, we'll be given the link of the feedback form. Please carefully insert your name and the email ID properly, so that because once the certificate will generate, we may not be able to correct it. So now once again, we welcome Dr. Sharad here. I request Dr. Siddharthan to please introduce Dr. Sharad for the next talk. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Anish. Welcome, Dr. Sharad. Welcome, dear participants. It gives me great pleasure to introduce today's speaker, Dr. Sharad Kambale. So Sharad has accomplished a lot, and I found it difficult to summarize his CV in a very short, brief talk here. So Sharad is currently assistant professor and head of the Department of Botany in MVP Arts, Commerce and Science College in Tyrambakeshwar in Nashik. Dr. Sharad has completed his BSc in Botany and MSc in Botany with a specialization in Angiosperm taxonomy under the Shivaji University of Kolhapur. For his PhD, he has completed his research in Botany from Angiosperm taxonomy from the Department of Botany at Shivaji University, Kolhapur. He worked under the guidance of Professor S.R. Radav. Is a very popular, well-known, renowned botanist of India. Later, he did a brief postdoctoral work in the University of Goa, working on a group of plants called Brachystelmas. Then he joined his current position as assistant professor here. So Sharad has a lot of accomplishments. He has 17 taxa newly described by due course of his research. And he has served as reviewer for several scientific journals, including Nordic Journal of Botany, Phytotaxa, Tilapia, etc. His research experience is on the genus Ceropegia. He has published a lot of research work on Ceropegia, and he has also done on the related genus Brachystelma. He has got several honors. He is a fellow of the Indian Association for Angiosperm Taxonomy. He has got an excellent research award from the China International Conference Center for Science and Technology in July 2020. He has won the Professor M. Sabu Award for Best Paper in Angiosperm Taxonomy presented in the annual conference of the Indian Association of Angiosperm Taxonomy in 2017. He has got several academic ranks and prizes. He has ranked first in his PhD Research Scholar Seminar competition. He has won the Shivaji University Merit Scholarship for his MSc Part 1 examination. He has received the gold medal in the BSc Honor degree for standing first in the BSc course. And coming to publications, Sharad has published a staggering number of 60 plus publications so far. His publications range from micropropagation to taxonomy to taxonomical revisions. He has published one booklet under the Lead Botanical Garden project. So this is a very interesting project under Dr. S.R. Yadav and Shivaji University. They have established a Lead Botanical Garden in the university campus itself. They have collected several endemic plants of the Western Ghats, and they are growing in the college campus itself. And oral presentations, he has presented several international and national conferences, including the IBC, International Botanical Congress which was held in Shenzhen in China in 2017. He has given at least 22 invited lectures, and he has 5 years of teaching experience at the PG level. He has conducted several completed projects from various Indian funding agencies. And without much delay, I'm handing over the mic to Sharad for talking about his research interest. Over to you, Sharad.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. So screen is, you can see screen, right? Hello? Hello? Dr. Siddharthan? Dr. Sid?
You can continue. Yes.
Is it audible? Dr. Siddharthan,
Yes,
sir?
it's audible.
And
But your slides are not visible now. You share it once again.
okay.
No, not this one.
Is it
Yes,
visible?
yes, visible. Yes,
And audible too, right?
yes. You can go ahead.
Okay. Good evening, dear participants and the Life Science Department of the Christ University, Bangalore. Very good evening to one and all, Dr. Anish, Dr. Siddharthan, Dr. Manikanthan, who was in constant touch with me. So I wish you all the very good evening to all of you, and the best and cool breezes from the Tyrambakeshwar, Nashik, which is the northern Western Ghats. So today we are going to discuss about the Ceropegias in India, diversity, problems and prospects. So the outline will be of lecture will be like why this work is like on the Ceropegias, present situation of the genus in the country and across the globe, species diversity of the genus, problems and then prospects we'll discuss about. So why Ceropegia? Because whether it is just because it is beautiful and curious flowers, its intricate phylogeny, its medicinal properties, interesting biogeography, super specialized pollination system, model organism to trace the evolution of tuberous species. Whether these are the reasons really I was thinking about, and actually you'll be surprised to know while starting to work on the Indian Ceropegias, these questions were not in my mind. The only reason was Professor S.R. Yadav, my guide, who told me on one fine day that you should work on the Indian Ceropegias, and I just started work. So this is the Ceropegia candelabrum, the type species of the genus, which was described in the 1753. You can see this illustration by Van Reed in its Hortus mulbaricus. Later on, this became the type also for this particular species. So this Asclepiadaceae now became the subfamily Asclepioideae, which comprises 231 genera and about 3,400 species. This is widely distributed in the tropical and subtropical regions. India has some 55 genera and 260 species of this subfamily. This particular subfamily is well known for its rarity and endemism. The genus Ceropegia, which was described in the 1753 by the Linnaeus, the meaning of the genus is, it is a Greek word made up of the two words that keros means wax and pignani means assemblage of the candelier-like inflorescence of this in the some of the species. So especially of the type species that is Ceropegia candelabrum, you can see. In India, there are 61 taxa by now of this particular species. So these are the workers who worked on the Ceropegias across the world. It starts with this 1673 by Van Reed with the Hortus mulbaricus. Later on, Linnaeus described it officially in his species plantarum. Two species were described, and other these are the workers. But the prominent work came after Huber, who revised this genus for the world. Huber, in his revision Der Gattung Ceropegia, and Ansari in 1984 for India, he revised this genus, and these are the other workers. So in the world, the Ceropegia is distributed from the Australia to this Africa, India, and then Madagascar, Canary Islands, and likewise you can see in the graph. So majority of the species, they have been concentrated in the Africa and Indian subcontinent. So what are the characters of this genus? You can see they are the tuberous species, or sometimes they are with fascicle roots. Solitary flower to umbellate cymes, tubular corolla with connate corolla lobes, and uniseriate to biseriate bicarpellary ovary. Pair of the follicles and comocytes. These are the characters you can see when one want to study these Ceropegias in the field. One has to take the longitudinal section of the flower, and then only you can identify the particular plant up to the species level. So when I was thinking about the tuber diversity, there are different types of the tubers. There are the globose tuber with the fleshy roots in the Ceropegia ravikumariana, then only globose tuber and with fibrous roots in the Ceropegia lavi. In Ceropegia juncea, the chain of tuber is formed. In the Ceropegia maculata also, you get a small peanut-sized tubers, and then fleshy roots come, and this is how it goes, like a prostate. And Ceropegia odorata, you can find a elongated tuber at the young stage. Then in Ceropegia vallis, you can get the several fascicle roots together. So there is diversity in the light windows and corona as well. So you can see these are the light windows, means these are the window panes which are meant for the insects once they go inside for the pollination, or once they go inside. So those light windows are there to guide them. And these are the corona diversities. Corona is not the corona which we are facing these days, but the corona is a crown-like structure which is the very prominent structure in the Ceropegia. So corona diversity is at high level. So there is a diversity in the pollinia structures also. So in Asclepiadoides, we doesn't get the stamen or anther like the classical structures, but we get the pair of the pollinias we get, and the structure which is red structure here, it is known as the corpusculum, and these are the polliniums, and the pollinium is attached to this corpusculum by the translucent corticals. There is one crescent also at the which is also colorless, transparent. From here, the pollinia gets germinated. So distribution pattern is quite unique because we get the maximum diversity in the Western Ghats, and there is another group of species they are growing in Northeast India. The Western Ghats species, none of the species from the Western Ghats occurs in the Northeast India, and none of the Northeast Indian species occurs in the mainland. Another pattern is these all Western Ghats species, majority of them are endemic, but none of the species from Northeast India is endemic. So these Ceropegias, they found we can found those species in these 7 phytogeographic zones, like from Himalaya to Western Ghats, West Coast, and those lateritic plateaus, Eastern Ghats, Deccan Plateau, and the Northeast India. So these are the list of the species of the endemic species. Maharashtra is at the top with 17 species. Then Tamil Nadu with 4 species, and the Kerala with only 3 species, recently described Ceropegia nampiana. So there is only 1 species in the Andaman and Nicobar Islands. So these are this list of the species which are reported from only type locality. These are the 7 species. So now let's talk about its affinities. So Ceropegia is very much closely allied to the Brachystelma, genus Brachystelma, and Rhycruxia, which is an African genus. We are going to discuss about those affinities in little later. So when we are about to discuss the floristic composition of Indian Ceropegias, there are these 10 sections where there as per the Huber 1957. However, recently Brian has merged these, the whatever you are seeing in the red, Oreopegia, Cyanopegia, Hylopegia, and Luprestis. These sections have been merged by Brian in his recent paper. So earlier in Huber's classification, these all world Ceropegias were classified into 21 sections, and now it is only like in Indian Ceropegias, as far as Indian Ceropegias is concerned, only 7 sections are there, like Chinopegia, Ceropegia, Indopegia, Janthina, Phalina, and Ptiloris. And recently described section Esculenti for the Ceropegia bulbosa. Character distribution is like majority of the Indian species, they are twinning, and only 19 are erect species. Linear lived species are more as compared to the broad lived species, and scaly lived or reduced lived species, there is only one species, that is Ceropegia juncea, there wherein you can find only reduced leaves. When we compare like tuberous and non-tuberous character, so majority of the species are tuberous, which has globose tuber, and 25 species they are with the fascicled or the with reduced tuber size. Majority of the Indian species, like 52 species, they are with cymose inflorescence, and only 9 species they are with the solitary flowers. So where one has to search for these Ceropegias in India? So they grow on the high elevated lateritic plateaus, Ceropegia juncea, Ceropegia jaini at Khas plateau, you can see. Then at the scrub forest of the Badami, Bagalkot, eastern Karnataka, you can find this Ceropegia juncea. Then on the plains of these scrublands, you can get Ceropegia spiralis. On the hill slopes in the northern western Ghats, you can find Ceropegia syadrica and all other white flowered species. In the Shola forest in the southern western Ghats, you can get Ceropegia gardneri and related species. In the Kalakkad Mundanturai Tiger Reserve, like high elevation grasslands, you can get Ceropegia ravikumariana and related species. And some of the species, they are very much fond to grow with the vicinity of the Strobilanthes calosa in the bushes, that is Ceropegia fantastica and its related species. That is the habitat diversity. So somebody was asking about the diversity of this genus in Maharashtra, why it is too much diverse. The reason is there are several habitats, and as far as India is concerned, after Africa, why there is more number of Ceropegias in India? Because there are several habitats. Certain Ceropegias, they grow in the lateritic soil also, like Ceropegia angenerica and Ceropegia jaini in the rock crevices. So after this initial introduction, we will go to the species diversity. We'll have a nice tour to the Western Ghats and our entire country to locate some of the Ceropegias in the field. So species diversity, you can see there are 7 sections. Section first is section Ceropegia. This has only 4 taxa. Ceropegia candelabrum, which is the type species. You can get the species in the Western Ghats, and up to Orissa also this species has been reported. So once you take the LS of the flower, you can see there are the downwardly pointed hairs, which is the prominent characteristic of the these particular species. And these particular species have been adapted to the now several habitats. You can see now even it is growing on the lantern also in the Sirumalai, Dindigul, and these Tamil Nadu, some of the districts in the Tamil Nadu. Ceropegia candelabrum variety biflora. You can see this was the species which was described by the Linnaeus in his species plantarum. Later on, it has been reduced to the variety by Ansari. You can see here the coral lobes are beaked. That is the character. All other characters are quite similar. So this is also species distributed in the southern western Ghats and the drier parts of the Andhra, and up to Orissa you can find the species. Even you can get the species in the Sri Lanka also. Ceropegia mannarana. This is the species which was described from the Mannar, Gulf of Mannar, and after type these species has never been collected. Some people, they are of the opinion that this species is nothing but the Ceropegia candelabrum. However, you can see the flower structure is very interesting, but nobody has collected this flower after type collection. Ceropegia ravikumariana. This is our species. We described it from the Kalakkad Mundanturai Tiger Reserve and those grasslands of Naraikadu and Vistarmuktai Peak. So this is prostrate, especially typical grassland species, and you can see this is quite related to Ceropegia candelabrum, but there are no hairs on the coral lobes, and the pattern is very much unique, the linear leaves. And the characteristic, you can see the hairs downwardly pointed, they are up to the mouth of the corolla tube. Another section is section Chinopegia, especially this section made for the Chinese species by Huber. This section has 9 taxa in India. Ceropegia angustifolia is the one which occurs in the northeast India, Bangladesh, and Nepal. You can see the sword, angustifolia, the sword-shaped leaves of this particular species, and there is a ring of hairs at the mouth of the dilated part of the corolla tube. So these are the prominent characteristics. You get this species in the grasslands of the Northeast India. This is our recently described species, Ceropegia khasiana, by Murugesan et al. And this is also quite related to the earlier species that Ceropegia macrantha and other. Ceropegia hookeri is the species which was also remained unnoticed for a longer time, which occurs in Sikkim, Nepal, and Tibet. And this species we can get in our Sikkim part also. Ceropegia cachinensis. This is the species described by the Prain in 1900, distributed from the Sikkim, Bangladesh, and Myanmar. This photo has been shared by the Manit Kudo from Thailand because this species has never been collected after its type collection from India. From Thailand, he has collected. Ceropegia longifolia. Of course, this species is reported from the Uttarakhand, Himachal Pradesh, and other northeastern states. And you can see here these coral lobes, they are pouch shaped, and there are several subspecies in this particular species. Ceropegia lucida, which remain unnoticed for a longer time, more than 150 years, after which last year Kandal has collected this particular species from Namdapha Tiger Reserve in Arunachal Pradesh, and that's how it got rediscovered and were published in the current science. Ceropegia macrantha, this is also the Cyanopegia section related species, and you can see here the hairs on this outer corona, they are very much quite longer. Ceropegia pubescens. The leaves are very much pubescent, that's why the name Ceropegia pubescens. This photo has been taken in the Siliguri by Dr. N.V. Gaikwad and Parthraj. So for this species, we have designated the lectotype, and what is the procedure we are going to discuss about the this lectotypification in the latter part of our presentation. So this species is also we can get in Nepal and other parts of the like Nagaland, Sikkim, West Bengal, Tibet, China. So quite widespread species. Ceropegia wallishi. This species also remained unnoticed for a longer time. And last year, Mr. Sushant More collected it from the Himachal Pradesh and sent the photos to me for identification. And you see the root tubers are very much fascicle and quite unique in this genus. And the downwardly pointed hairs in the corolla tube. So that makes it distinct from all other species. Section esculenti, which has been recently described by the brains, Peter Bryan. So this has like Ceropegia bulbosa and Ceropegia bulbosa variety luci. This is widespread species. We get this in Saudi Arabia, Oman, North Yemen, Ethiopia, Somalia, and all other drier parts of our country. This is bulbosa. Only leaves are sword shaped, and this is the only character by which it has been treated as a variety. Fourth section is section Indopegia, described by the Huber. So Ceropegia barnis is the species which also never been collected after its type collection. So this is prominent species with leaves are very much longer and follicle is also quite longer. Ceropegia bedomi is a southern Western Ghat species we get in Kerala. It's endemic species of Kerala. You see it's a grassland species and the coral lobes are quite coiled and they are beaked. And this, I was searching for this species for a longer time and I finally got this species in the Gurukula Botanical Sanctuary. One girl was growing this particular plant. Ceropegia bhati. This is a species described by the Yadav and group from Davangere district. This is the species which is quite related to the Ceropegia noorjahani, which is in the section Tiloris. However, this has been taken in this section by Peter Bryan. I don't know, this has to be thoroughly worked out so that one can identify its correct section. Ceropegia ciliata is again a grassland species which occurs in the Kerala and Tamil Nadu and recently been collected by the Samir Patil from Karnataka, also northern Karnataka. This was actually remain unnoticed just because of its habit. You can see it's quite ciliate, and because of this, in the vegetative stage, one can think it as a Ceropegia hirsuta, and I also missed this for 2 years. That from Ebenard near Uti, we have collected these once, but I thought it's a Ceropegia hirsuta only. But when it flowered in our garden, we finally confirmed its identity. So lectotypification, I'll discuss about lectotypification in this slide so that the students will understand how one has to go for. So this is the species which are described by the White. And in the prologue, you can see here, White is saying that he has collected the species from the cliffs of the rocks at Katy Falls, Nilgiris. So this was written in the prologue. So when Huber wrote its type, he wrote it in Edinburgh Botany Gardens. However, those 4 sheets were without any annotation by the White like this, and it was not cannot be considered as the original material. However, Ansari said that the types are in Q, but those sheets they are also without any annotations. Now, what is an annotation? You can see in this sheet here it has been written Katy Nilgiri, so Katy Falls. So that has been here. I have like maximized. You can see. So for this particular species or name, we have designated the lectotype by correctly finding the original material, and this is now been considered as the lectotype of particular species or particular name. This was published in the Redia. Ceropegia ensifolia for its ensiform leaves like sword-shaped leaves. This is also a grassland species. You can get it is closest relative of the Ceropegia ciliata. Ceropegia evansi, it's an endemic species from Maharashtra and been now subsumed in the section Indopegia. We have designated lectotype for the Ceropegia evansi also. Ceropegia fantastica, the Sedgwick species, you can see why it has been named as fantastica, because in any of the genus in angiosperm, you can see it's quite rare that you can get the corolla, the calyx, the sepals, they are longer than the corolla tube or corolla as such. So this is very prominent character which has to be again studied, should be studied carefully. So why it has happened? So sepals are longer than the petals. So that's why it has been named Fantastica. We can get species in Goa, Karnataka, and Maharashtra. It's endemic species of the northern Western Ghats, grows on the bushes. Ceropegia hirsuta is a again widespread species. We can get the species in Thailand also, and you can see because of the widespread nature, you can get the lot of diversity, population variations within the species. You can see different color variations, hairs and hairy pattern. You can get. So that's why these species have been named there are several synonyms in this particular species. Ceropegia huberi, one of the beautiful species of the Western Ghats, because coral lobes have been suppressed. It has been bent down and it looks like you can say star-shaped flowers. This is the Ansari species. It's again endemic to the northern Western Ghats of the Maharashtra. Ceropegia carolensis was described by the Punekar et al. In 2013, so this grows in the terminal flowers, the inflorescence. These are the characteristic feature of the Ceropegia carolensis. Ceropegia lavi, this is widespread species in the northern Western Ghats, and you can see there is a lot of variation in the coral lobe structures, the color pattern in the upper half of the coral lobes. You can get this violet and olive green, then yellowish, then again deep green. So a lot of color variants you can get, the corolla tube variants. But this is what been described as Ceropegia lavi by you can see Hooker, and on the type sheet you can find these particular flowers. So Ceropegia McKenney, it's a bottle-shaped Ceropegia which you can get in the northern Western Ghats on the several forts, Siengar forts especially. So quite related species is Ceropegia panchaganensis. We get this species in the Panchagani. It remained unnoticed for a longer time, and recently Mr. Sushant has collected from other localities also in the northern Western Ghats. So it's an endemic species of Maharashtra. Ceropegia roli. Ceropegia roli is well known for its terminal inflorescences and grows in 1 or 2 localities in the northern Western Ghats, and it's an endemic species. Ceropegia cydrica, it's a widespread species in northern Western Ghats, and the same pattern of the color of the in the upper half of the coral lobes. You can see green, then maroon, then again then violet, and again brown. So different types of the color pattern you get in the sturdy species, an erect herb in the northern Western Ghats. Ceropegia santapo, It's a unique species being with only uniseriate corona. There is no another whorl of the corona which is absent. This is quite related species to the Huberi. You can identify that Huberi and Ceropegia santava, they are quite different. Here these lobes are not suppressed, but Peter Bryan says that in the field itself that these species are one and the same, and that's why in the larger context the world authorities on the genus like Peter Bryan, Mew, they merged all these species like Ceropegia cydrica, Ceropegia ciliata, Panchaganensis, McKenney, Carolensis, Huberi, Santapo, Rowley, in the only one species, Ceropegia lavi, which is really interesting. That how it is by looking at those herbarium sheets, one can find they, of course, at the herbarium, one can find that these are all one and the same species, but they are not. In the field, when you identify, they are quite very much different. And that's why we have written all these species distinct in our revision. Ceropegia media is another species of this particular section. You can find this pink flower, which is widespread in the northern western Ghats. Ceropegia oculata, again widespread species, and you see the color pattern, this different type of color patterns in the Ceropegia oculata. And there was one variety. This is the variety which was described as Ceropegia oculata variety sarcodensis. We have merged in our revision. Ceropegia odorata, this was the species which was described by Nimmo and Graham. So this is the species which gives some smell, odor, and this is how it was different. But you can see there are several such species that doesn't exist in any other in our country. That this is very unique species. Not only its odor, but flower structure and corona, everything is different. We have discovered this species from Madhya Pradesh also. Ceropegia omisa also its Huber species and remained unnoticed for longer time. Then Abhishek Jain from Gurukula Botanical Sanctuary, he shared once and asked for the identity, and I told that this is a Ceropegia omisa, and then we rediscovered it and we have published this in Asclepios. Ceropegia pulei, it's named after Professor Pulea in Anandpur. You can see this species is grassland and grassland species which occurs in Eastern Ghats, and this is the plain tiger larvae which feeds on even flowers and leaves and everything. That may be considered as a threat for this particular species. Not only for this, in the entire genus Ceropegia is prone to the butterflies. Every butterfly have several butterfly species, they are feeding on this particular species. Ceropegia vincifolia. Again, this species is widespread, which one can get in Silent Valley also. In northern Western Ghats, it goes up to Mumbai and up to Gujarat, you can find. So Ceropegia vincifolia is vinca like leaves, that's why vincifolia. And color patterns are quite, you can see different types of colors in the corolla lobes. Section Janthina, in this section there are 10 taxa. Ceropegia anthemanica is one. Interestingly, from Andaman and Nicobar Islands, this is the only species from which has been described from the Andaman Islands, and beaked coral lobes, that is the characteristics. Ceropegia decasniana and Ceropegia medziana. These are the species in this section, you can see. And the corona is quite different of those species. That's why. But however, coral lobes sometimes in herbarium, one can find that they are one and the same, because once they pressed, the coral lobe looks like beaked and leaves and everything is similar. And sometimes people may merge it. However, once you see in the field, they are quite different from each other. Ceropegia elegans, again widespread species, and you see lot of diversity in the corolla lobes. The hairs are sometimes present in prominence, sometimes hairs are absent. All these forms you get in the Western Ghats, because this is widespread species, and almost throughout the year it flowers. You see how much longer trichomes they are present on the coral lobes. This is Kotagiri population. This is came to this one Kovai Kotralam, near Coimbatore. This is KMTR population. So all these population, they vary a lot once you bring them in the garden. Interestingly, these species grow with the cuttings also. Stem cutting also you can grow in your garden. So this is the elegance which you get in Sri Lanka also. So that's why, because of those variations, these are the several names have been given: Ceropegia walkeri, Ceropegia similis, Ceropegia legeri, and so on. But the prominent character is the outer corona and inner corona; they are the same length. So that's why all other characters cannot be considered as the very important, but the corona character is very unique, and that's why all these have been merged. However, Ceropegia gardneri also been merged by several authors. However, we have collected this species from the Karnataka, and you can see here in this both the pictures. Outer corona is quite at the lower side, much shorter than the inner corona. This is the inner corona, and pollinia, they are red. Interestingly, this is the only first time I have seen the red colored pollinia. Otherwise, they were yellow. So these are the pollinia. This is corpusculum. These are corticals, white colored, and we have rediscovered this species from Karnataka and new record to India. Ceropegia intermedia. This is the species of southern western Ghats. You get up to Orissa also. Ceropegia maculata, some spotted species. That's why named as maculata. We can get in the southern western Ghats in Kerala and Tamil Nadu. This is one complex. One has to, means we are about to solve this particular complex, or to say something about the Ceropegia schumaniana, which is closest relative of this maculata group. Ceropegia monohari, which is again interesting species. You can see the ring of hairs at the dilated portion of the corolla, which is unique. Ceropegia schumaniana. This is the species which has never been collected after its type collection. It was collected from the Kharian Shola in the Coimbatore district, but never been collected. The reason, the character is, you see, though it is quite in that maculata group, the outer corona is much shorter than the inner corona. So that is the character. Ceropegia threads also I have never collected, and actually once collected, but I was not sure about its identity. The corona photographs were not with me. This is the section Phallina. It has only one species, that is the Ceropegia juncea. This is again a widespread species we get in peninsular India and even in Sri Lanka. See the population in Tamil Nadu and Kerala, you get these hairs, the swinging hairs, and they are colored hairs, swinging hairs. They are there on the coral lobes in the southern western Ghats. But once you travel across the towards northern part of our country in the western Ghats, we doesn't get such kind of hairs. This is Gokak population, Karnataka. This is in Tamil Nadu, near somewhere near Tirunelveli. So these are the variations we get. Somebody can describe it as a new species also. So this happens. And in near Yargatti in Karnataka, on one that bush of this acacia or vachelia, you can see several flowers. They are flowered together in the for the Ceropegia juncea. And unfortunately, this vachelia plant has been cut down last year when one of my friend he visited that place. Section Tyloris. This is again prominent section in Indian Ceropegias. There are 13 taxa. In the Ceropegia ananthi was the species described by S.R. Yadav and School from Sindhurga district. This is the species which has been reported from type locality only. The important character was the coral lobes. They have dots on the either sides of the coral lobes. There are the spots, and the light windows are a little prominent. Ceropegia angenerica is a species which is growing in the lateritic soil in the Anjaneri Hill, Nashik, been described by the Malpure and group. Ceropegia arnotiana. This is Manit Kudo's photo from Thailand. From India, it has never been collected after its type collection. And you can see it is very much similar to the Ceropegia ananthi, you can see. This is the Ceropegia arnotiana, which we get in the northern eastern parts of our country. Burma and up to Thailand we can get. Ceropegia attenuata is a widespread species, and that is why there were several synonyms. So variety Mukambika was published this as variety Mukambika. We have merged this in Ceropegia attenuata only. There are a lot of variations you can see. Several variations in the Ceropegia attenuata made people to describe some of the forms as a variety or species. However, the corona was similar. This you can see, this is the corona for Ceropegia attenuata. All these forms, they have similar corona like this. The only population we got in Devgad and Tilari, this population, wherein coral lobes also shorter than the tube. In all these plants, you can see these coral lobes and tube, it is similar, but here it is shorter than the tube. And the very important is corona, you can see. Corona is entire. At the maturity, sometime it short slits. A slit is there in the outer corona. So, and lot of difference in the corona. So we have described it as a new species which was published in Cubal 18 in 2012, named as Ceropegia conconensis. Ceropegia fimbrifera is an interesting species because of this fimbria at the base of these deltoid coronal lobes. But interestingly, Silent Valley population doesn't have this corolla, the trichomes at the base of the coronal lobes. And Dr. Siddharthan and myself, we have collected these from the Nandi Hills, Karnataka. Ceropegia jaini, it's another species of Dr. Ansari sir and B.G. Kulkarni. It's endemic to northern western Ghats of Maharashtra, and recently Dr. Chandore collected it from Karnataka also. This is lateritic plateau species, solitary, axillary, solitary flower. Extra axillary, solitary flowers are there. So there was one communication, one paper that the Ceropegia jaini and Rowley at the brink of the extinction. Actually, at the type locality, there are several individuals, mature individuals are there, and in Western Ghats, at several other plateaus, we have described or discovered this plant. Ceropegia mabli is a species with longest flowers in our Indian Ceropegias are concerned, 10 plus centimeter flowers. This is the species described by Hemadri and Ansari from Junnar, Pune. Ceropegia mohanrami is a Yadusar species which is growing on the lateritic plateaus of the Konkan. Noor Jahani, this is a species described by Dr. Ansari and named after his wife Noor Jahan for inspiring him in his research work. This is again widespread species we can get up to Nanded. Ceropegia pusilla, it's a species which is the southern western Ghats species, and I have never collected this particular species. Dr. Malpure sent this photo. Ceropegia nampiana, one fine day, Dr. Manodev went to marriage, and on hill he find this particular plant, and he sent the photographs to me, thinking that it is maybe described one. But I told him that it is a new species, and he described it as Ceropegia nampiana. This is quite related to the Ceropegia spiralis. You can see there are these glandular and these trichomes, bulbous based trichomes. They are in the corolla tube, downwardly pointed. But in the Ceropegia nampiana, they are absent, and these are the characters. Then outer corona, like this corona in the spiralis is hairy. Those are glabrous. In nampiana, it's hairy. So these are the characters you can see here. In Ceropegia spiralis, the corona is glabrous, spirally twisted. So these are the characters which are important in the genus. So this is the spiralis, very interesting species because of coral lobes. They are spirally twisted. So these are the species which are little known. Means I have never been able to collect these species from the wild. Ceropegia arnotiana, Ceropegia cachinensis, Barnesi, Schumaniana, and Mandarana. So specialized pollination mechanism is the interesting part of the Ceropegia. You can see. So these are the dipteran flies. They go in these open flowers, and because there are these such kind of downwardly pointed hairs and such trichomes, they attract these glandular trichomes. They attract these different flies. They go inside, maybe for breeding ground or for the nectar. But once they go inside, flower is erect. There are hairs downwardly pointed like these, so they cannot come until after 24 hours. This flower get bent down, like you in this middle photo you can see. Flower get bent down, and then only these particular insect can come outside, and then again they go to the another flower, and likewise pollination over. But important part is these insects get trapped in this particular tube for the 24 hours at least. That's why these flowers are also known as fly trap flowers, and this is the specialized mechanism. So super specializations, that is the reason why Ceropegias are quite rare. So we made some cytological studies, and we got 2n is equal to 22 in all the species which we have studied. In Ceropegia elegans, we got 22, but somebody has reported 44 also and 66. So those are ploidy, like diploid, triploid, tetraploid likewise. But we have got the diploid population. So these are these we talked about the diversity. Now let's talk about the problems. So let's talk about the first problem, that is whether one has to conserve this particular group of plants. So let's talk about the conservation efforts. Whether to save this particular man. So the answer will be we don't know whether who is this, whether to save, whether to know, because we doesn't know. When we doesn't know about anything, we least bother about its conservation and its importance we doesn't know. But now certainly we will understand, yes, we must save this particular man. So to conserve something, we should know that particular group first. And we have little understanding about this group, and we know that this group has to be conserved. How? How to conserve this group? So seed setting is very low because of this super specialized pollination mechanism. People are eating those tubers raw, and that is the reason why it is quite rare. Butterfly, food plant, several other aspects are there. So seed setting is difficult. Then cutting wise, only few species they grow. So micropropagation was the point. So Professor Yadav, my guide, he wrote one project to the DPT, and DPT sanctioned the conservation of these species of these Ceropegias in the Western Ghats. So Shivaji University Kolhapur was one of the unit, and another unit was the Agarkar Research Institute Pune, who were taken care of the 4 species conservation. So this is the micropropagation technique. Everybody knows that tissue culture, through tissue culture, this team made. So this is the success story of the Ceropegia monrami. I was part of this, but the team, the Yadav sirs, all the students of Yadav sirs, Dr. Arun, Dr. Avinash, Dr. Jay Kumar, Dr. Ajay, Mrs. Madhuri, Desai, and those all tissue cultured plants, this has to be taken to the field, and this has to be planted, and then next year they were again monitored, and they were setting flowers, then there were fruits. So the successful story. So this is for one species. For every species, for 20 species, we have conserved this particular group of plants. So this is the only technique. So one has to reintroduce them in the natural habitats where they are growing, and similar habitats in the Western Ghats. So some of the conservation efforts, they are silent. They are not publishing these. Like Dr. Mandar Datar, he is representative of the Agarkar Research Institute Pune when we were doing the Ceropegia conservation. This is Mrs. Lali Joseph from Gurukula Botanical Sanctuary. She is actually conserving a lot of Ceropegias in that garden, Gurukula Botanical Sanctuary. One must go and see. And this is Mr. Sushant More. He is also keen observer and collector of the Ceropegias, and he is growing those succulents in his own garden and in some professional gardens also. So another problem is mind-boggling phylogeny. So in 2007, this Mew and the group, that Mew and Schumann, they were of the opinion that Ceropegia is paraphyletic, but still taxonomically sound. What they did was, so they were of the opinion that some Ceropegias and some of the brachystelmas, they are nesting together, they are paraphyletic, but taxonomically one has to treat them as a very distinct group of plants from each other, and they were of the opinion that one has to retain this. Later on, Siddharthan and the group, Siddharthan, then Mayur Kambale and Yadav, so they did that. They were, I think, first that they were of the opinion that Ceropegia, then brachystelma, then staphyliads, these brachystelma, everything is, I think, nesting together, so they are polyphyletic maybe. So even then, they were of the opinion that they should treat separately. So this is that group of plant, Brachystelma noorosi. They are very tiny flowered plants, flowered in the summer season, hot summer, in this February to May before. And they are hysteranthus, majority of them. Hysteranthus, they means flowers and leaves, they will be rarely together. So in the summer, the flower, fruits, and they go, and with the onset of the monsoon, leaves comes. So this is Ceropegia, Brachystelma noorosi. Now it's Ceropegia. So it grows in Shirwal and other in Satara district of Maharashtra. Brachystelma shirangi, you can see without leaves, flower first in the Shivaji University campus. So it was reported as Brachystelma edulis by Yadav sir, but we have described it as Brachystelma edulis shirangi itself, which got published in Vidya. So there were several characters. Then leaves also comes together. Once with the onset of monsoon, leaves and flowers also come together. So this was the brachystelma. They are very tiny flowers with only 1 centimeter across. You can see. These are the another photos. So another Prince Italy in 2015, they were of the opinion that the brachystelma eduli of Maharashtra and Myanmar, they are different, quite different. So this we have described as a new species, that is brachystelma shrangi. This is edulis itself. So this is brachystelma gondwanense we described. Again, interesting group of plant from the Gondwana land of the Gadchiroli and other areas of the northern Maharashtra. This is brachystelma kolarens, widespread species which get from the Kolar to the west coast of Maharashtra and in Kasaragod, Kerala. So the corona is quite similar, only hair pattern is different. But that is why I have also merged this. There's Malvanense and Naurogender kolarens. Again, Siddharthan and others, they are like while describing this brachystelma Vartaki and Mahajani. Paraphyly been observed that African brachystelma, they nest in the African Ceropegias, and Indian brachystelma, they nest into Indian Ceropegias. So these brachystelmas, Indian and African, they evolved parallelly twice, once in Africa and once in India. So this is brachystelma borni, this is brachystelma brevitum. So this is the problem again. Then in 2017, this is complete chaos. Peter Bryan, he merged all these stapeliads, 357 stapeliads, 141 brachystelmas into 219 Ceropegias, and made a different concept, phylogenetic concept of Ceropegia, which is now 700 plus species. So this is now complete chaos. In the field, you can find that this Freria indica, this Stapelia, this Caraluma, this brachystelma Vartaki, they are not at all related to each other, but phylogenetically, as per brains, this everything is similar, and this is now complete chaos. So one should look into this also very carefully. So what are the prospects? So prospects are, its pollination biology is very interesting. Next year, probably Dr. Anne-Marie Heduk from Germany, she is going to come visit India for its pollination biology studies. Ornamental potential, one has to critically study that, so that this group of plants can be bring them in the garden. Character evolution, we are working on this particular aspect right now. And phylogeny, you can see now it's like a mind-boggling phylogeny. More sampling has to be done, more characters, ecological studies, even chromosomes and chemical studies has to be done, so that we can come to some sound conclusion that whether to treat all these stapeliads and brachystelmas into only one genus, that is Ceropegia. So these are the prospects. What are my conclusions are, in the last 20 plus years, about 20 taxa have been added, which also indicate the need of intensive and extensive field surveys in remote places to document the Ceropegia species in India, rather than the herbarium specimens like basing and these classical herbarium techniques. Once one praise those plants in the papers, characters we lost. So spirit preserved specimens are very much of immense importance. Photographic documentation is necessary, because once you preserve in even alcohol or even classical herbarium techniques, we lose several characters which are taxonomically important characters. And while photographing, longitudinal section has to be taken every time. Many, right now from southern Western Ghats, more than 10 species are there which are new, but there is a divide of the coronal characters which are not there, we cannot see. So while photographing, you should take the longitudinal section. Variations within the population should be taken into consideration before describing the new species. And these all variability leads to the publication of many new species. So one should see this revision on the Indian Ceropegias by Kambale and Yadav, by Ansari sir, and one revision by Huber before describing any of the new species. This is Team Ceropegia, Dr. Siddharthan. He is looking after all the phylogenetic studies and character evolution studies from Christian University, Bangalore. He is our guide, Professor S.R. Yadav from Shivaji University, Kolhapur, and Dr. Mayur Kambale, he worked on the Asclepiades and Periprocoideae of the Maharashtra for his doctoral studies. Now he's a scientist in BSI. So this is our team Ceropegia, and we are doing something. Still work is going on. I thank Dr. Lekha, Dr. Gandhi, me, and all foreign experts for their comments time to time. Foreign departments, Haveria, Manudev, Navendu, Sushant, Rupul, Vivek, Raja, Babu, and everybody, all my friends, for sharing their photographs with me, because photographs are very much important in these particular studies. Funding agencies like UGC, DPDC, and DBT, I thank one and all. And I thank the organizers for this nice opportunity which they rendered to me to share something which I have done on the Ceropegias in collaboration with Dr. Siddhartha, IISc Bangalore, and Dr. Mayur. So I thank one and all. So if there are some questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Dr. Sharad, for this wonderful presentation. There are a lot of interesting questions from the audience, which I'll ask on their behalf. So before that, I would like to tell that Dr. Sharad is the authority of Indian Ceropegia, along with Dr. S.R. Yadav, and he has published his entire whatever he gave here. He has published as a one paper in Redia, which can be considered as an authority on Indian Ceropegia. You can look for that paper in Redia Journal. It's a very voluminous paper. It's equivalent to a monograph on Ceropegias. You can refer to that. It's openly available online. So now I'll come to the questions. So the first question is from Ilaya Permal. He's asking why only one species spotted in Andaman? Is there any lack of study in that area?
Yes. Andaman and Ilaya, thanks for the question. Andaman is like very difficult to access. Several areas are not accessible, so that is the reason. But however, there is one circle of the BSI. But even then, something is I don't know, something is going wrong. But there should be several species in the Southeast Asian element we can get in the Andaman Islands. But even when we went, we cannot find this Ceropegia andamanic after type. So nobody has collected. So that is the only reason. Studies and surveys, very designated surveys for to locate the Ceropegias are must in those areas.
Okay, the next question is from Dr. Gururaj. He's asking, is there any Ceropegia species which is considered endangered in India? I think several might be there. Sharad will answer.
Yes. Dr. Gururaj, please see that revision by us in the Redia, which is freely available. All the status of all the species has been given in that particular publication.
So there's a question from Albin Shibu. Is Ceropegia species sensitive to pollution?
Yes, not exactly pollution, but disturbance they cannot tolerate. Tolerate means once people know that their Ceropegias are growing, easily been taken away by the people to eat raw tubers. They are potato-like tubers. So we have never seen Ceropegias in the disturbed areas. So pollution, that kind of study also one can undertake.
Yeah, a related question to this. Are edible tubers of Ceropegia available in the market by Dayanand Dalwai?
Okay, Dayanandji, this is not available because they are very rare. We rarely get one or two plant in the nature while going for the field work, so it's very rare.
Okay, there's one question from Dr. Gururaj again. What is the mode of propagation of Ceropegia species? Is the species recalcitrant for large-scale micropropagation or for using further as ornamental? Similar question from Dr. Praveen also from our department. Is Ceropegia commercially important with respect to medicinal properties or ornamental aspects?
Yes, there is one alkaloid known as ceropegin, which is there in these ceropegias. So, but nobody has commercially utilized this particular aspect because they are very much rare. So first we have to increase their population. So micropropagation is the technique by which we can we can propagate them at a larger scale. This is one. Through cutting all the South Indian species, which are without tuber, you can grow them with cuttings, stem cuttings. It is very easy, and ornamental potential is because its foliage is quite well. You can get good foliage and flowers almost throughout year. It will be green, those all leaves, and flower will be very much beautiful. So we worked on the Ceropegia gardner and elegans for its ornamental, and it was growing very nicely in the shed net conditions throughout the year.
Okay, so there's one question from Rakshita. Is there any specific reason for the red coloration in the pollinia of Ceropegia gardneri?
Somebody has to study this because the only any coloration or this is because of the pigmentation. So that red pigment maybe anthocyanin or that pigment may be in larger quantity, so that color has been came. Otherwise, all or even pollen grains also yellow, many several of the species. So that red colored pollinia we didn't study why it is so.
Okay, there's one question from Sindhuja Rachiraju. Problems faced during cultivation of Ceropegia.
Yes, there are several problems. Being the tuberous plants, people sometimes what happened that even if they water continuously, Ceropegia doesn't like water. They grow in the water drained soils. So water requirement is not at all like that is not the requirement. So one can grow it in the like cocoa peat, or after the flowering season over, you have to take those tuber out and keep them in the ash, dried ash, and you can just close them. Then again next year you should plant it because the rodents they eat eaten away those all tubers. So there are several that tuber rotten away with the water. So there are several problems. They are sensitive group of plants. So these are the problems which we encountered in our regular studies. But this happened only with the Maharashtrian species. Those are with the globose tubers. But the species which grows in the southern western Ghats, they are without tubers. Fascicle roots are there, so they are grows with cutting. Nothing happens. They are very much. They are very like easy growing plants. So no much problem you can encounter. Only you have to take care of butterflies. That is the problem. One single day is enough. That every entire plant, entire garden will be only sticks you can find sometime. All larvae will eaten away everything. So that is the problem.
So there's one question by Purnima. Is any work done on phytochemistry of tubers?
Yes, one of my classmate, Dr. Seema More, she was doing the phytochemical studies on the brachystelma, not Ceropegia only one or two, but phytochemical study may be available. She can Google it. Seema More, she worked on the brachystelma and Ceropegia tubers phytochemical studies. The problem is taking tuber means it will certainly go. So, but I don't know, very few studies on the phytochemical aspect.
So there's one question. Does mycorrhiza affect sustenance of Ceropegia by Datta Jetta?
Mycorrhiza, I don't know exactly because that is actually not my like area of work. So mycorrhiza I'd never seen, but fungus sometime with a lot of water, fungal infections were there, tubers and tuber rotten away. That has happened. Mycorrhiza I never came across. Rather, I never studied that rotten part under the microscope. So one can go for that particular part of study also.
So there's one question from Arjun Shetty. Is the sample or plants of Ceropegia available for cultivation in our botanical garden? Ilaya also has asked you some tubers to send to him for growing.
That I can send some of the local plants like Ceropegia H.Huber and they are abundant. But only thing, LIA, you can go to your places. There are several species, and all other species, whatever you require, I can send you. But sending tuber, it is not suggested or it is not recommended to grow with the tuber. Seed, I can send.
So another interesting question from Datta
Yes,
Jekta.
yes.
If we grow Ceropegia in controlled conditions, it
Yes,
changes
Dr.
its
Sir, it has
habits.
happened. Yes, it has happened. It changes its habit. Ceropegia panchaganensis is like this only 10-15 centimeter in its natural habitat. But when we are growing in the glasshouse condition, it attained like a climber. It was huge climber up to the like more than 20 feet high. So that has happened with the small tubers, small sized plants. And another Ceropegia femorifera you have seen in the presentation. It was very small, but when we grow under our greenhouse or shade net condition, it was nicely climbing more than 5 6 feet high. So that has run even trying to like a twining habit. And floral characters also changes because whatever is required in the natural habitat, like hair pattern and these, those characters, those things are not required in the captivity. So those characters easily shed like hairs on the corolla lobes, in the corolla tube. Those characters certainly changes immediately. Color of the flowers.
So I think I'll pose the last question. You mentioned that the information is available in your revision paper, but again, Prashant Kumar wants to know precisely how many species in India are endangered. Can you give a rough idea?
Prashant, though almost more than 40 species from India, they are endangered in the endangered category because of the habitat loss. And you can get the status of every species in our that revision, which has been published in Redia.
One last question. Is there any association with Ceropegia for field identification?
Yes, yes, yes. Dear Arjun, it is like if that hills are like slopy hills. If there are strobilanthus, certainly you should stay in those bushes for ceropegias. If there is a grasslands in Shola forest, everything from wherever part of country you are belong, you go to any undisturbed place, ceropegias are there. So the thing is, in the thick forest also they are there. Habitat diversity I showed you, right? So they are at every other than aquatic and epiphytic habitat you can get everywhere.
One more question from Srikala. Any work done
No,
on stress physiology of Ceropegia? No. So
no,
these are
Srikala,
open
actually, no.
questions.
Yes.
So I think due to lack of time, I'll stop with these questions and I'll post Dr. Sharad Kambale's email ID. If you have any questions, you can ask him directly.
I thank Dr. Siddharthan sir for the nice words, Dr. Manikantan and Dr. Anish for giving me opportunity and entire life science department of your university. It was excellent experience. Thank you. Thank you one and all.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you, Siddharthan, for your wonderful arrangements of this one-day seminar. First and foremost, I thank God Almighty for successful completion this one-day webinar seminar. Next, I thank to our speaker, Dr. Sharad Kambale, Assistant Professor and Head, Department of Botany, MPPS Arts and Commerce College, Maharashtra, for his delightful and informative speech. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Last but not least, on the behalf of organizing members, Dr. Siddharthan, Dr. Anish, myself, and the faculty members of Life Science Department, we thank university authorities, our Vice Chancellor, Father Abraham, Registrar, Dr. Anil Joseph Pinto, Deans, Directors, HODs, senior faculty members, faculty colleagues, students, friends, and participants. Thank you all. Have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.